In an epic collaboration with my partner in crime, Minnie Mostly, we'd like to introduce the Max Robotics platform. This was a totally custom build that really stretched our abilities with a lot of interesting problems to solve across a range of disciplines. Join us as we look at the features of this device and open it up to see how it all works. We'll drop links in the description for some of the parts and tools that we used for those who are interested.
Don't forget to ask them to subscribe.
Okay, dude. It takes a lot of work to bring projects like this to life. If you have a second, please show your support by subscribing, hitting that like button, and maybe leaving a comment to let us know what you think. Alright, let's get into it. This is a pretty basic two-motor robot that we're currently driving with an Xbox controller. What's really cool is that this isn't just a one-off robot car build. We designed and built this controller board to be a general-purpose robotics platform for building all kinds of things. It has 4 motor ports with support for encoders on each motor for precise tracking of movement. There's an I2C port and 4 sensor ports for things like limit switches. On top, we have a really nice capacitive touchscreen for the user interface. Let's get a good look at this thing. You might notice that there are 2 micro USB ports. We'll get into that in a bit.
These are the 4 sensor ports.
They use the same 4-pin connector that old school wired phones use to connect the handset to the base unit.
This is a fuse for the 12-volt LiPo battery.
Let's take a look at how the motors connect. We built these little interface boards that attach to the motors to create a standardized connection that uses an XT30 connector for power and the same 4-pin phone connector for the encoder.
Show them the PCB that goes in there.
Here is an unpopulated interface board. It mounts inside this little orange case that we 3D printed, and the whole assembly zip ties to the motor body. Here's what one of those phone connectors looks like. And then we have the XT30 connector for power. We split it up like this because the motor needs a connector with a pretty high current rating. For the wheels, we made an adapter plate out of aluminum that sits between a wheel hub and these nice wheels that we bought from Robotics. The machining process for making this adapter was pretty fun, and I might make a separate video on it just because there were some interesting challenges that were involved. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in, and maybe think about subscribing if that's something you want to check out. Hey Minnie Mostly, tell them what else we have going on under here.
We got this cool roller ball that we attached to an offset mount that we 3D printed. It rolls along smoothly in multiple directions while the wheels do all the work to drive around.
Nice. What about our mounting strategy?
Oh yeah, we designed this 3D printed base with a hole pattern that uses half-inch spacing. Then all of our accessories will use the same spacing to be compatible.
That's right, and that's even how our controller box connects to the base. Let's get into the controller board. So, why do we have 2 antennas?
Oh yeah, we're using 2 ESP32 chips and each one needs its own antenna.
That's right, and that's basically why we have 2 of everything.
Yeah, 2 reset buttons, 2 boot buttons, and 2 sets of serial programming headers.
If you look at the side of the case, it has this interesting cutout for the antennas. We did this so that all the electronics are attached to the bottom half, so the case can easily be opened without weird connections between the 2 halves.
We also included a power switch for the 3.3 and 5-volt power rails that we'll check out in a minute.
Cool, let's open this thing up. The 2 halves of the case are connected with long screws in the corners. We also melted heat set inserts into the case to give the screws something solid to screw into. When taking the top half of the case off, we need to be careful to avoid losing our button extensions. The easiest way to do this is to flip the whole thing upside down when taking it apart.
These are the button extensions. They stick out of the case and press against the buttons on the PCB.
The case was a lot of fun to design with all the cutouts for the ports, and we took advantage of our multi-material printer to embed labels for them. The cool Max Robotics cutout on the top is actually a vent to let heat escape. Alright, now for the good stuff. This is the custom 2-layer circuit board that we designed using the open source software KeyCAD. We used this really nice capacitive touchscreen module that we bought off of Amazon. We'll include a link to that in the description below. We put some female headers on the PCB for it, and we used some nylon standoffs that screw into our PCB to stabilize the screen. Let's take a look at what we have going on here. We're using 2 ESP32S3 modules to control this thing. This first ESP32 on the right is responsible for managing the user interface, which includes the touchscreen, and we're also planning to have it run a local web server to support additional features in the future. The second ESP32 is responsible for all things related to controlling the motors. This also includes managing a Bluetooth connection to a game controller for manual control. The ESP32s are connected to each other through a serial connection so they can work together to make the robot run. On the power side of things, we have an XT60 connector that immediately goes to an automotive fuse, which then goes to a P-channel MOSFET that's used for reverse polarity protection. From here, the 12 volts goes down this super wide trace to feed the DRV8874 motor drivers at the bottom. These chips are able to drive each motor to a peak current of about 5 amps. That 12 volts also branches out to power a 3.3 volt buck converter, which powers both ESP32s, and also a 5 volt buck converter that powers the screen backlight and is also used as a reference voltage for the motor drivers. This chip here is a GPIO expander that helps manage the motor driver chips. Here are the female headers that the screen attaches to. We used headers with extra long legs and screwed the screen in place before soldering the header pins at the perfect height to mate with the screen. Each ESP32 has a UFL to SMA cable for the shared Bluetooth and Wi-Fi antennas. At the top of the board, we have the jacks for sensors. Each one is connected to a single GPIO pin on the ESP32. And we also have an I2C jack to run devices like distance sensors. Each ESP32 gets its own USB port that takes advantage of the native USB functionality of the ESP32S3, which is really nice.
Show them the bare circuit boards.
Okay, so check this out. We sent out our PCB design to be manufactured, and a few weeks later, we received 3 unpopulated boards in the mail. Oh yeah, and we also put this really cool logo on the back silk screen that came out really awesome. We also ordered a stencil made out of laser-cut stainless steel that we laid on top of the PCB and spread solder paste over it to deposit the paste on all of the pads. Then we painstakingly placed each component by hand and ever so carefully walked it over to our homemade reflow oven. After only about 6 minutes, all the surface mount components were soldered. We did have to hand solder all the through-hole components afterwards.
Then we baked some cookies in there.
Yeah, right, dude. Reflowing is a pretty cool process, and it's super satisfying to just pull out a fully soldered board.
Show them the OG board.
The OG, huh? Okay. We had one board revision before our current one. There were several issues, and we were also experimenting with a case design that had this sort of snap-fit mid-frame where the front and back panels screwed into it. Our new case design is a lot more sturdy and simple. You can see the clips for the snap-fit design of this 2-piece mid-frame. Kinda cool, but not super practical if you ever want to take it apart because the clips break off pretty easily. Let's pop the screen off real quick and take a look at some of the issues that we encountered. We ended up having to cut the traces for the USB connectors and manually wire them because I had no clue that USB traces required precision routing. We also added some missing bulk capacitors to the power rails. Probably the worst mistake was this reverse polarity MOSFET footprint that was wired completely wrong. We ended up just bypassing it with a large piece of copper. We added some miscellaneous caps and resistors as well. We also added this yellow wire between the ESP32s to use as an interrupt in addition to our serial connection. Here's a side-by-side of the Rev 0 and Rev 1 boards. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more on this project, let us know in the comments and consider subscribing. Alright, well that's about it. Hey Minnie Mostly, why don't you close this one out?
Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the new one. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the new one. I keep saying new one.
Right.
Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the new one. Next. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.